What are some deep, thought-provoking questions to ask someone to know them better? Why is you you? I just be like that. Regular or chicken salt? WTF is chicken salt? Do you beat chickens until they cry and harvest their tears? Or maybe you pit two chickens against each other, and when one loses and is at its most salty point, you kill it and the chicken blood gets mixed with salt to make it more salty. I have a few more theories. Yes. What is your credit score? One a psychiatrist asked me in first session was, how did you meet your best friend? This was around 40 years ago, and my answer was she was taking off her clothes at a party. Oh, so you thought she'd be fun to hang around with? To be honest, that was not what was going through my mind at the time, but I really liked the doctor's response and assumption, and it really helped me feel comfortable and that she would not be judgmental. You like Huey Lewis and the news? At the end of Pete Holmes' podcast You Made It Weird, he always asks what's the hardest you've laughed. Doesn't have to be the literal hardest, but whatever pops in their head first. I find that question always gets a good conversation going, usually shows who's important to them, what's important, etc. Ask them what's new in their life. Even if you are just meeting them, it allows them to characterize their current self as opposed to describing their typical metrics everyone thinks they should use to describe themselves, such as what they studied, where they're from, what job they work, etc. Sup. There are like 30 questions that if asked and answered truthfully to a man and woman they make each other fall in love. Your house was burning and you can save only one object from it. What do you save? Questions like these are really helpful to find out what the other person values in a fun way. What are you thinking right now? I remember my dad used to ask this to me when I was a kid. I used to daydream in the car when he'd drive all around Europe. I was about 6 years old and really, those were the best of times. It's really nice to use when you have nothing else to say, and it just gives a nice glimpse into what the other person really is thinking. If your Uncle Jack helped you off an elephant, would you help your Uncle Jack off an elephant? Which parallel universe versions of yourself would you want to meet and why? The me that gets a second date with you. Hopefully you're meeting that version tonight, too. What do you love most about yourself? I love getting asked this question. It really makes you think about how you view yourself. Wanna do some cocaine? If they say no, then you know they don't do cocaine. Probably have somewhere to be tomorrow morning, like a job or something. If they say yes, settle in for their whole story. If the universe is expanding, what is it expanding into? More universe. I like asking people what was the most historical event in their lifetime. You get a lot of interesting responses ranging from Vietnam to Princess Diana's death or landing on the moon and the first US black president. It's wonderful conversation. Why is your favorite book, movie, game your favorite? Everybody's got a favorite blank, but asking them what they love about it is a great way to learn more about their interests and to learn more about them as a person. Somebody I know once walked up to me at a dinner party and asked me what my worst personality trait was. I knew her already, but the idea was not to learn about me but instead to make me think about what I'm embarrassed about myself for. Pretty weird conversation. Yeah, like jazz. How can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real? One time I was part of a committee interviewing kids to be camp counselors, and I asked one kid, if you could pull out a string of hankies from your ear, what color would they be? That kid spent a whole 10 minutes describing each individual ear hanky. What are your thoughts on life on other planets? Usually warrants a seriously face, and I go, no, really, and most people will answer, then segue into something along those lines that they're interested in, and we're discussing all kinds of things. Open-ended topics are great to get to know people. A question a guy asked me during the first few days of college. Him. Do you have a girlfriend? Op. Nope. Him. You don't have one or you don't want one. The second question sent me into deep introspection, but me and the guy became lifelong friends. What do you do when you're home alone? Because in that way you would discover their real personality. Maybe because they are shy at school, work, and when you're alone you do whatever the hell you want. What do you do when you're home alone? Do you really want to ask this question though? This isn't so much a question, but a little game you can play that can help break the ice and let you know how well you mesh together. If you're at a place like a bar or restaurant, look around the room and try to come up with backstories for other people there. It can be a lot of fun and takes some of the pressure off, while getting you two talking to each other and getting a feel for each other's sense of humor, personality. It can tell you a lot about a person. For example, I played this while out on a date with this girl, and she managed to take all the fun out the game by being ridiculously cruel in all her assumptions for no real reason at all. It felt like she was projecting issues she had onto these people. Like one guy was sitting at the bar alone. Could have been waiting for someone. You never know. But because he was alone, he was a loser with no friends that hates his life. Completely killed the mood, but at least gave me a heads up as to what type of person she was. Some great suggestions in this thread already. The answer tells you a lot about them. If they just pick 3 people in the 21st century they want to sleep with, that kind of lets you know where they are at. Do you like pickles on your burger? Do you believe in Sasquatch? I sometimes ask, what are you thinking about right now, expecting a genuine answer. Also, you can ask them what they think about when they are in bed right before sleep. You know how you think about a lot of stuff before you sleep when you are vulnerable and alone. Mine are a little depressing, I think, lol. One question I like to ask people is, if you had all the resources, time and land available to build whatever you want, a house, a park, a monument, what would you build? I'm no architect nor psychologist, and I know it kind of sounds like an interview question, but I believe it can trigger a very interesting discussion with that person, and you can keep asking about the reasons and details afterwards. That question is something I came up while I was dating my last partner. When I asked her that question, she started talking about how she would imagined her dream house, full of large windows and mosaics, with a colorful garden, and so, from there, it turned into a surprisingly long and pleasant conversation. What do moths pee? Dust. If you think out loud, is it really thinking, or are you just talking to yourself? How many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed? Why? What would you do if you were a caterpillar and you went for a camp out with all your mates, fell asleep in your cocoon and everyone woke up as a butterfly and you were a moth? Is a hot dog a sandwich? Nope, it's a long burger. Tell me something about you that I couldn't know just by looking at you. It's interesting what the person answers with. Anyway, how's your sex life? Do you like memes? Hint. There's only one right answer. Ask someone whether or not they think free will exists. Follow up with a why or why not. Usually leads to a pretty interesting conversation. If you could spend 24 hours inside the world of any painting, which one do you choose and why? What do you hate? Tells a lot about the person you're talking to. Do you with the war? This bitch don't know about Pangea. What is your mother's maiden name? What's the name of the street you grew up on? What was your first pet's name? What are the 3 digits on the back of your debit card? Do you hang the toilet paper overhand in the correct fashion like a caring, thoughtful companion? Or do you hang it the wrong way like a simpleton because you hate people and want to cause chaos and suffering? I'd pick B, just to bring the self-righteousness down to a more manageable level. Do you wad or fold? Depends on why I'm trying to get to know them in the first place. Once when my roommate and I were searching for a third roommate for our new apartment, the first question we asked applicants was, who's your favorite Pokemon? It caught a lot of people off guard and the answer doesn't really matter that much, but the applicant's reaction to the question helped us filter through which ones had generally similar interests to us. Super late to this, but oh well. After getting to know someone a little and we're kind of past all the general small talk, weather, family, light interests, etc., and I see the conversation dying down a little, I like asking how the other person feels about silence in conversation. Most people are a little taken aback, but it's nice to kind of set up how silence is between the two of you. Some people don't like it, and some people are very comfortable with it. Plus, it minimizes the amount of oh boy it's sorta quiet, should I say something? thoughts that may arise later if you know what they're comfortable with. It can also be sort of telling of their approach to life, relationships and their personality as well. Which chipmunk getting the best head? There's a Spanish TV talking show called La Resistencia, where they do a lot of silly things. And one of them is asking the guest, "What's your favorite mountain?" As the TV host likes rock climbing. This shocks the guest, so he ends up talking about something about himself. Pretty funny to see the reactions. What do you think happens after we die? Don't ask this on first date, though they may think you want to murder them. What was your name again? What is your ex's version of that breakup? People are surprisingly and unintentionally honest. What is the weird topic that you know too much about? What's the first thing you think of when you wake up most days? How do you handle your anger? How long do you think you'll live? What is your idea of happiness? Seems to be pretty interesting. Is this a personal attack? What do you know about me? Who sent you? One I ask is if you could get any question answered other than what is the meaning of life, what would it be? Most people don't answer the question very seriously, but for those who do, you know that they would like to connect with you on a deeper level and not just be another guy that you just know. If it's answered seriously, it'll likely spark a good discussion because it is a difficult question to answer. When my best friend asked me this, we talked about it for a good half an hour before it was like, damn, that's a great question and I'm not really sure. A few thought-provoking questions that I would ask someone. What are you looking forward to this week? Should everyone on the planet be striving toward a common goal? If so, what would that be? If you could teach the entire world just one concept, what would it be? What concept do you think could have the most significant positive impact on humanity?